Now, the first thing I want to start off with is, who was the Prophet Muhammad? Muhammad is the central prophet and final prophet of Islam. Born in Mecca in 570, most of his early life was spent as a merchant, and at the age of 40, that's when he began to have the revelations from Allah that became the basis for the Quran and the foundation of Islam. By 630, he had unified most of Arabia under a single religion, and Muhammad had huge influence in the world, and we have evidence of this because at the time of filming this episode, there are over 1.8 billion Muslims worldwide. Hajj is the religious pilgrimage performed in ritual stages in and around the holy city of Mecca and is required of all Muslims. The Hajj pilgrimage involves several rituals in honor of the Islamic prophet Muhammad and also events relating to Muhammad and his ancestor known as Ibrahim or Abraham in the Bible, who was also a prophet. The walls of the interior of the Kaaba are decorated with colorful emblazoned marble. The floor of the Kaaba is made of marble and limestone. Now, the color of most of the marble is white, but some pieces are colored as well. The 13 meter by 9 meter or 43 feet by 30 feet interior walls are tiled with white marble halfway to the roof with darker trimmings along the floor. The interior floor is approximately 2.2 meters or 7 feet 3 inches above the ground area where tawaf is performed. Now, number 4 is pretty interesting. There's some pots hanging on the inside. Now, there's a number of golden colored lamp-like structures that are hung inside the Kaaba. Nobody yet knows the reason why they are hanging and what they really refer to. But these pots are hanged with a rope, and the rope is tied to the pillars inside of the Kaaba. And these are referred to as gift of Kaaba. And for number 3, let's actually look at the pillars inside of the Kaaba. Every single column inside of the Kaaba is in square shape. And between these 3 columns, a pillar is present. The pillar passes through all of the columns. Now, there is a small altar or table set between one and the other 2. Now, the sides of the pillar are extended to the southern and northern walls of the interior of the Holy Kaaba. To these walls, the various lamp-like objects are attached. For number 2, let's talk about the wood that you're going to notice in the interior of the Kaaba. 49 pieces of the world's most powerful wood hold the inside of the Kaaba. The Kaaba's roof is supported by 49 pieces of teak wood imported from Burma and processed in Jeddah. They are evenly distributed on the Kaaba's walls, and teak tree wood is well known for its durability. They grow in the Southeast Asian tropical forests and can reach a height of 45 meters. They are commonly used in shipbuilding and other high quality industries. Coming in at number 1, we have the wooden columns. The area, which is less than 180 square meters, contains 3 wooden columns that support the Kaaba's ceiling. Now, each of the dark brown columns, which is over 1,350 years old, has a perimeter of about 150 centimeters and a diameter of 44 centimeters. Each column is supported by the square wooden base. Now, a pillar suspended from the Kaaba's gifts is located between the 3 columns. Now, Hajj is a pilgrimage in Islam that must be performed by Muslims who are capable health-wise as well as financially. Now, this is an essential part for a Muslim's life that needs to be completed once in a lifetime. Now, mostly the Hajj ritual is performed as part of an obligatory pillar of Islam, and the Kaaba is at the epicenter of the city of Mecca. Building is at the center of Islam's most important mosque, the Great Mosque of Mecca. So both men and women, they dress in white clothing, which is known as ihram, during Hajj. Now, this symbolizes the state of purity that they're entering. Also, the Kaaba is sometimes called the House of Allah. The Quran states that the Kaaba was the first ever house of worship for Muslims, and guess what? It was also built on instructions directly by Allah by the prophets Ibrahim and his son Ismail. So it goes way back, even before the time of the Prophet Muhammad. But speaking of that, actually, you see the Kaaba originally? Now, guys, speaking of that, actually, the Kaaba being built way back, did you know that the Kaaba that we see today is not exactly the same Kaaba as was constructed by the prophets Ibrahim and Ismail. So from time to time, the Kaaba needed to be rebuilt after natural disasters as well as man-made disasters. There was also a major reconstruction during the life of the Prophet Muhammad. Actually, as a matter of fact, it was done before he even became a prophet. Since then, there has been an average of one major reconstruction that's done every century. Now, the last renovation, however, took place back in the year 1996, and this one was intense, it was extremely thorough, and it led to the replacement of many of the stones, as well as re-strengthening the foundations and adding in a new entire roof. So it's likely that the next reconstruction won't actually be done or needed for centuries to come. And this is because modern building techniques and materials ensure that the Kaaba is as secure as it has ever been. So now most times when we see the Kaaba, it looks like this. You see that? It's all black and it has a gold band going around it. But did you know that the Kaaba actually used to be multicolored? Yeah, no, I didn't either. And you know, this tradition of the Kaaba being black actually seems to have started at the time of Abbasids, and it was said that their household color was black. And before that, the Kaaba was covered in multiple colors, including green, red, and even white. Also, another interesting fact is, according to Islamic tradition, there are actually two Kaabas. The Al-Bayt al-Ma'mur means frequented house, or the house which is situated on the seventh heaven is directly above the Kaaba on earth. And it's, according to Muslim beliefs, the angels make tawaf, which is going around the Kaaba 7 times, similar to when Hajj is performed or Umrah is performed. And by the way, Umrah is different from Hajj because Hajj has specific times that it's conducted, but Umrah can be done any time of the year. So apparently this Kaaba on earth is a replica of the Kaaba in the 7th heaven. Angels perform prayers there, and every single day it's said that 70,000 angels visit it. Now this will continue up until the day of resurrection. Saudi Arabia is also the country at the center point of Islam, quite literally. So you know how Muslims follow the 5 pillars of Islam, right? Well, performing Hajj, that's one of the 5 pillars of Islam, and this requires Muslims from all around the world to travel to Mecca. And approximately 2 million people make this trip every single year. But more accurately though, Hajj is a pilgrimage made to Kaaba, which means house of Allah, which is in the city of Mecca in Saudi Arabia. And by the way, it's only if you're able to do this. So people who are in extreme poverty or just too old or physically unable to do the pilgrimage, they don't have to do it. But for other Muslims, it's a requirement.
Mecca is the familiar form of the English translation for the Arabic name of the city. Although the official translation used by the Saudi government is Mecca, spelled as M-A-K-K-A-H, which is closer to the Arabic pronunciation. The full official name is Mecca al-Mukarrama, which means Mecca the Honored, but is also loosely translated as the Holy City of Mecca. The ancient or early name for the site of Mecca is known as Becca. Widely believed to be a synonym for Mecca, it is said to be more specifically the early name for the valley located therein, while Muslim scholars generally use it to refer to the sacred area of the city that immediately surrounds and includes the Kaaba. Another surprising fact about Mecca is that its 2 million population actually triples during the pilgrimage periods. The pilgrimage to Mecca attracts millions of Muslims from all over the world. There are 2 main pilgrimages, the Hajj and the Umrah. The Hajj, the greater pilgrimage, is performed annually in Mecca and nearby sites. During the Hajj, several million people of varying nationalities come together to worship. Every adult, healthy Muslim who has the financial and physical capacity to travel to Mecca and can make the arrangements for their care of their dependents during the trip must perform the Hajj at least once in a lifetime. Umrah, which is known as the lesser pilgrimage, is not obligatory but is recommended in the Quran. So the Meccan economy has been heavily dependent on the annual pilgrimage. As one academic put it, Meccans have no means of earning a living but by serving the Hajjis. Income generated from the Hajj in fact not only powers the Meccan economy but has historically had far-reaching effects on the economy of the entire Arabian Peninsula. The income was generated in a number of ways. One method was taxing the pilgrims. Taxes taxes especially increased during the Great Depression, and many of these taxes existed as late as 1972. Another way the Hajj generates income is through services to pilgrims. For example, the Saudi national airline, Saudia, generates 12% of its income from the pilgrimage. Fares paid by pilgrims to reach Mecca by land also generate income, as do the hotels and lodging companies that house them. The city takes in more than $100 million, while the Saudi government spends about $50 million on these services for the Hajj. There are some industries and factories in the cities, but Mecca no longer plays a major role in Saudi Arabia's economy, which is mainly based on oil exports. Mecca's culture has been affected by a large number of pilgrims that arrive annually, and thus boasts a rich cultural heritage. As a result of the vast numbers of pilgrims coming to the city each year, Mecca has become by far the most diverse city in the Muslim world. In contrast to the rest of Saudi Arabia, and particularly Najd, Mecca has, according to the New York Times, become a striking oasis of free thought and discussion, and also of unlikely liberalism. In fact, Mecca owns its own hometown paper known as Al Nadwa. However, other Saudi and international newspapers are also provided in Mecca, such as the Saudi Gazette, Al Madina, Okaz, and Al Bilad. The first three are Mecca's primary newspapers, focusing mainly on issues that affect the city, with over 1 million readers. In pre-modern Mecca, the most common sports were impromptu wrestling and foot races. Football is the most popular sport in Mecca, and the city is hosting some of the oldest sport clubs in Saudi Arabia, such as Al Wahda FC, established in 1945. And of course, the King Abdulaziz Stadium, which is the largest stadium in Mecca with a capacity of 38,000 people. The city of Mecca actually happens to be home to the Black Stone, which is set in the eastern corner of the Kaaba. It is revered by Muslims as an Islamic relic, which, according to Muslim tradition, dates back to the time of Adam and Eve. The stone was venerated at the Kaaba in pre-Islamic times, and according to Islamic tradition, it was set intact into the Kaaba's wall by the Islamic prophet Muhammad, 5 years before his first revelation. Since then, it has been broken into fragments and is now cemented into a silver frame in the side of the Kaaba. Its physical appearance is that of a fragmented dark rock, polished smooth by the hands of pilgrims. Islamic tradition holds that it fell from heaven as a guide for Adam and Eve to build an altar. It has often been described as a meteorite. Muslim pilgrims circle the Kaaba as a part of the Tawaf ritual during the Hajj, and many try to stop to kiss the Black Stone, emulating the kiss that Islamic tradition records that it received from Muhammad. Muslims, however, do not worship the Black Stone.